Across the ash wastes on Kronos 5, the Space Wolves, led by Logan Grimnar, are chasing a Dark Eldar raid that recently has disrupted an archaeotech dig by the cult Mechanicus. Logan Grimnar, filled with hatred, is chasing down Archon Skari of the Dark Eldar Kabal of the Deadly Mist. And he chases him back to that point of exit, the portal to the dark city of Commorragh. He must try and destroy the Xenos before they get away. Welcome to another Skaredcast Battle Report. Let's begin. Hello and welcome to another Skaredcast Battle Report. Today we continue the story between Archon Skari and the Space Wolves. We got Billy on the channel again. Hey. And he has brought his Space Wolves ready to wreak revenge on the Dark Eldar after the last game that we had. So if you haven't seen that game, link in the description down below to see the raid on the Archaeotech Excavation, where the Dark Eldar, spoiler alert, got away with some cool tech. And now they're making their way back to the portal to the Dark City. And Archon Skari with his incubi have been tracked down by the Wolf Scouts. And they have located the Webway portal. And they have called down Logan Grimnar himself. So as Archon Skari is mobilizing troops into the Webway portal, they attack, and they've been able to sneak some quad mortar batteries into position to pound the Dark Eldar into submission. But quick redeployment of the Reaver jet bikes to the front. We've got the Kabalite warriors taking defensive position by the Webway gate, and we have a Ravager as well as the Witches. In reserve, we've got Helion's deep striking, a Void Raven bomber, and we also have this deep striking Scourge as well. This is a kill point mission. Logan Grimnar hates Archon Skari and will get hatred against him, and if he succeeds in killing Archon Skari in a challenge, he will get D3 or 3. Is it 3? 5? He gets a bunch of victory points. I also have some Kabalite Trueborn with the splinter cannons ready to come in from reserve as well. It is night fight for the entire game, and you can find this mission a little bit modified in the Champions of Fenris book, where it's Logan Grimnar technically against Eldar, but we've just modified it to suit our needs slightly. So it's Dark Eldar instead of Eldar, and Logan is in Terminator armor instead of on a chariot, essentially. Okay, so I hope you enjoy it. Leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think. I hope you really enjoy the game. You know, we've got the Dark Eldar once again facing off against the foe. One special rule is I get an extra point if there's no, or some extra points, 3 points if there's no Space Wolves within 6 inches of the Webway portal. And I also get, all my models are fearless within 12 inches of the portal, just because it's the portal. And the Space Wolves have deployed first. We've got the Thunderwolves, the batteries, the quad mortars, very nasty quad mortars, and a unit of Wolf Scouts with sniper rifles and camo cloaks and stuff. And they're hiding in the Prometheum sprawls of Kronos 5, which is pretty cool. And the Space Wolves will be going first. They've got Logan Grimnar, a Rune Priest, and some Wolfguard Terminators in Deep Strike Reserve, and as well a Lone Wolf in Deep Strike Reserve, ready to come in and bring the fight to the enemy. Okay, Billy, are you ready for this? It's the fateful dice to see if the Dark Eldar seize the initiative. He's gritting his teeth here. Do the Dark Eldar, Archon Skari, does he seize the initiative? That is a 3. Sigh of relief. And we begin. The Warlord traits. Logan Grimnar allows all Space Wolf models to reroll morale and leadership tests within 12 inches. And I got +1 weapon skill on my Warlord from the Dark Eldar table. My combat drugs are +1 weapon skill. So the Reaver jet bikes, the 8 Hellions, and the Witches have +1 weapon skill. Okay, moving on to turn 1. And as the night continues to encroach, the Space Wolves advance and open fire on the Dark Eldar. Space Wolf, turn 1. Okay, so this is the Dark Eldar Kabalite raiding force led by Archon Skari himself. To lead the retreat into the Webway Gate, he has brought his elite bodyguard of Incubi that are riding Inner Venom, a big horde of Hellions. 8 Hellions are guarding the retreat. We have 6 fast Reaver jet bikes, the Scourge, and he has brought some heavy guns in the form of a Void Raven bomber and a Ravager. His Trueborn, ready to fight the Space Wolves tooth and nail. Kabalite warriors to hold the line. And last but not least, the Witch Cult of the Bloodied Blade. They're here to fight for the Real Space Raid feast as well. The aim is for Archon Skari to get out of the Webway portal, but Logan Grimnar himself has a saga of revenge on his hands. Will the Dark Eldar be able to stem the tide as the Space Wolves howl and destroy the Xenos forces? And this is a Space Wolf force led by none other than Logan Grimnar himself. A saga of revenge on his mind. He wants to stop Archon Skari of the Kabal of the Deadly Mist before it is too late, before he escapes to the Webway with his treasured prize from the Mechanicum Dig. He's brought an elite force of Terminators, another Lone Wolf, a Stormcast guy, a Room Priest. That's how much I know them. With a little birdie. His elite Thunderwolves that sniffed out the Xenos forces deep in the ash wastes, and his scouts that assisted and are going to pinpoint the Terminator assault. And to crush the enemy resistance, he has brought a unit of quad gun mortars to just pound the Dark Eldar Kabalite force in to bloody submission and hopefully seal the Webway portal once and for all. Will Logan be successful in his vengeful quest, or will Archon Skari, the slippery Dark Eldar that he is, escape to the Webway and to the Dark City only to plunder once more? The Space Wolves begin their advance. The quad mortars open fire into the jinking Reaver jet bikes, but they are stealth and they're skilled rider because of night fight. So they are 2+ saves. They lost 1 of their number, but they are jinking. Meanwhile, the scout snipers also tried to do some precision shots on the heat lances, but failed to get through the weaving and jinking Reaver jet bikes. The Thunderwolves, on the other hand, have moved and ran 6 inches up the flank, threatening both the Ravager and the Kabalite warriors. So we're moving on to the first Dark Eldar turn. We shall see what happens as the Dark Eldar must stem the tide, have to deal with his quad mortars, because this is like the only unit that would survive any sort of firepower from them. So let's see what the Dark Eldar can do as Skari orders an advance. Dark Eldar, turn 1, saw the back corner move back away from the Thunderwolves, while the Venom and the Reaver jet bikes tried to pounce on the scouts. But they lost 3 of their number and fell back 10 inches down 2 flights to get them out of charge range as the Reaver jet bikes failed their charge, denying the Dark Eldar first blood. Lucky. Well, you know, it's always... And now they're ready to fight again next turn. The Witches have done a flanking maneuver and boosted up at full speed, ready to tie up these guns in close combat for as long as they can. And now Logan Grimnar, in his spaceship, is trying to teleport him and his unit of elite Terminators onto the table. They stay back for a turn, but there is a lone wolf that might show up, and he does. He wants blood from being bloodied last game, filled with poison shots. If you haven't seen last game, check the link down below. But he's back, and he's hungry. He wants blood. Here comes the lone wolf.
That's where he's going to try to go right now.
Space Wolf, turn 2. The lone wolf did scatter a little bit, but he is fine. The Thunderwolves charged forward, seeing Logan's quarry in a venom, and with a 7-inch charge, did charge in and wrecked the venom. His incubi, Archon Skari's incubi and him, have disembarked, and they are fearless because they're close to the portal, so they are fine. But one more of the wolves has taken another dangerous terrain wound. So 2 of them are on 1 wound here, and there's lots of poison weapons ready to support Archon Skari. The Reaver jet bikes are now fine, and these scouts didn't do anything really. But in other news, the quad mortars sundered this poor raider, just blew it to absolute pieces. Even with the best jinking of the pilot, it exploded, killing 4 of the witches, and the survivors are pinned in the wreckage, which is very, very bad news for the flanking maneuver from the witches. So we do have some reserves to try and arrive. We've got a Void Raven bomber that arrives. We have the Hellions that arrive. And we have the Trueborn that do not arrive, and the Scourge that do not arrive. Okay, going on to Dark Eldar. Turn 2. What will happen? Will I be able to deal with these quad mortars before they wipe out my whole army? Or will I be able to stem the tide and get back to the Dark City? Stay tuned as the game gets heated. The Dark Eldar take their second turn with the Void Raven bomber zooming over the Thunderwolves and dropping a bomb, detonating it on target. 4 wounds, but their storm shields saved them from the damage. Other shooting saw 2 Thunderwolves go down that were already wounded, and I charged in with my incubi, and Archon Skari accepted the challenge of the Thunderwolf pack leader and sucked out his soul with his Huskblade, getting 2 more wounds, causing 2 wounds, and he is now strength 5 with his Huskblade, with his soul trap. Ha ha ha. The Void Raven bomber put 1 wound on this artillery piece. The Reaver jet bikes that were there, that's right, that were there, thought that it would be a good idea to sally forth, charge into the guns. They put 1 wound in shooting against 1 gun, and then bounced off. Like, literally bounced off. They lost 3 of their 5 members, and then failed their morale test, and then got run down by this scout with an initiative test. Oh my goodness. Okay, so the Hellions did kill 1 scout, and the scouts did fall back. That's why I was able to combi charge with the Reaver jet bikes. And the witches were just sitting there looking pretty, and now they are no longer pinned. But things are looking grim for this flanking force, although the Archon Skari is successfully holding back the Space Wolves from getting to the Webway port. Let's see if Logan Grimnar, the chapter master of the Space Wolves, arrives. And he does. Yeah. His Terminators are coming in to play the game. Archon Skari, Logan's coming for you, buddy. Going on to Space Wolf. turn 3. The Space Wolf turn 3 was an eventful turn, with Logan Grimnar himself making an appearance on the battlefield within striking distance of Archon Skari. Miscellaneous living lightning and shooting took out 4 of the Kabalite warriors in that crashed Aquila, and the Incubi in combat took out the last of the Thunderwolves with their claves, while Archon Skari is in a bitter challenge against the Lone Wolf. But he is tied up in combat with Logan Grimnar, ready to come around and do some damage. On the far flank here, the Quad Mortars did something like 30 wounds on the Hellions, and they all died. And the Scout charged into the Witches to try and tie them up for a turn, but failed an armor save, and the Witches have now advanced, and they were going to try again against the Quad Mortars, because I need to kill them. So, in reserve, I have the Scourge that fail to arrive. They're coming in turn 4, guns blazing, and the Trueborn that also failed to arrive at a critical moment. Maybe it was planned. Maybe they want their Archon to fall, because the Dracon in the unit has clandestine plans to take over the Cabal. Okay, moving on to Dark Eldar, turn 3. And right now, we're looking at 4 or 5 points to the Space Wolves, to 2 points to the Dark Eldar at the moment in terms of kill points, I believe. And yeah, so there's a lot of kill points here, but I've only killed the Thunderwolves and the Scouts, and he's killed a Venom, a Raider over here. That's 2. He did get First Blood as well, so that's 3 points, and the Hellions and the Reaver Jetbike. So he's got 5 total points to against my 2 points. Okay, let's see what we can do here. Dark Eldar turn 3. So this flank put as much firepower into Logan's unit as possible. The Rune Priest had taken a wound from Perils of the Warp, and 1 wound was put on Logan thanks to a Lookout Sir roll, and I did kill the Assault Cannon and 1 more Terminator with a Storm Shield from the Ravager and the Kabalite Warriors, moving up to try and support Archon Skari. Both the Trueborn and the Scourge failed to arrive in a clandestine plan. Ooh, maybe they want Skari to fall. But in combat, the Incubi put 2 wounds on the Lone Wolf, and he passed a feel no pain to stay alive, and then he missed in combat, which means that this combat is still going, and the Incubi desperately trying to save their Archon from the frenzied berserk rage of the Lone Wolf. While on this flank, the Witches have charged in to the Gunners, creating havoc, killing 2 of the Gunners with an Agonizer, and then taking 1 wound in return. But they did win combat, and the Gunners were insanely courageous, so they stay there. Meanwhile, the Void Raven Bomber failed to do anything at all. And we move on to turn 4. Logan Grimnar with Archon Skari in his sights. So close, but he has to try get through terrain to get there. Let's see if he can make that charge this round. It will be a determining factor in the game. Let's move on to turn 4. Okay, pivotal moment in the game right here. Logan Grimnar needing to roll an 8, because with a 6-inch move, this Terminator will make it into combat through the wreckage of that Venom, needing an 8 with the -2. No, it's a 10!
Yes.
There will be combat, and Logan Grimnar is looking at Skari, and Skari's hoping his Shadow Field holds. On to the combat phase, me. Okay, Space Wolf turn 4. So we had the Witches actually win the combat again, killed 2 more models, so they killed a gun, and then they failed their morale test, but they actually got away from the initiative of the Witches, so they're falling back, and the Witches are just putting the pressure on so they don't turn around and start shooting me again. In combat, Logan Grimnar did make it into combat, and he gloriously intervened, and everything died. Archon Skari did put a wound on Logan, but he's Eternal Warrior, so his Husk Blade did nothing but put a wound. And then there was 4 wounds done, and Archon Skari failed his first Shadow Field save and got completely knocked out. The other 3 attacks murdered all the Incubi, but not before the Incubi had completely annihilated his retinue and almost killed the Rune Priest as well. But he survived thanks to a lucky and vulnerable save. Wow. Archon Skari, bleeding, dying. His Trueborn still in the webway, laughing at him. We're moving on to turn 4. We've got the Scourge arriving. We've got the Trueborn arriving. But right now, I do not think I'm going to be able to come back from that with him dead. So that was a lot of points. So we will see. We will do the math. But all in all, Logan Grimnar has achieved his mission, has killed Archon Skari in single-handed combat with a glorious intervention. The lone wolf did die to an Incubi clave to the face. And moving on to Dark Eldar turn 4. Dark Eldar turn 4, and finally, the reserves have arrived from the Dark City, the Trueborn stepping out of the webway, and combined shooting from the deep striking Scourge and the Kabalite warriors and the Rabja finally took out Logan and his Rune Priest, but not before they have achieved their saga. And in combat over here, I didn't kill anybody, but she is still in combat with 2 of the Marines of the Quad Gun Battery. And as the point stands, the Space Wolves have 13 points. That's kill points and bonus points. And I have 10 points. That's kill points plus bonus points. The only way the Dark Eldar win is if that witch wipes them out. And we're moving on to Space Wolf turn 5. Let's see what happens after the combat. Okay, and that is the end of the game. The witches did finally take out the last of the crew members, and with a tabling, the Dark Eldar eke out the victory just by sheer attrition. Even though points-wise, the Space Wolves had it in the bag. But next time on the channel, something has awoken. And we will see what comes of that on the next game here on Kronos 5. Billy.
Yep.
Any last comments?
More bodies. Need more bodies in the list. Thought I could get away with it with making more of an elite unit, planned army, but need more bodies.
And you forgot, like, originally your army had a Predator and a Land Speeder in it, and only one of the quad mortars.
That's right. Yeah.
So I feel like having more units and being able to kind of spread out more and target different units would have been useful. But other than that, stay tuned for the Tactical Corner that will be released on Thursday. So leave a comment down below. Let me know what you like, what you didn't like. I hope you enjoyed the little scenario here as we continue this story of hatred,
lots of hatred.
Revenge. Hatred and revenge and hatred. And with Bjorn the Fell-Handed rising up, awakening, ready to bring destruction and death upon the Dark Kin. Thanks a lot for tuning in. Make sure you check out the other features on the channel. Links down below. And if you'd like to help the channel on Patreon, even if it's with $1 a month, become a patron today and help me create more cool content. After all, this is your grateful host, Skari, signing off. Until next time, Skari, out.